Good evening. Welcome to Frederick P. Rose Hall, the House of Swing. Tonight is a very special evening as we embark on the journey through jazz, a new series in a beautiful Appel room that's both educational and entertaining. It's teaching us all a new way of listening to jazz. Now please welcome the Jazz at Lincoln Center Orchestra with Wynton Marsalis.
Thank you so much. Thank you for your warm and generous applause. It's a pleasure to be back. We don't get to play in this room that much, but we're happy to be here. It has that community feel. We love it. We'd like to start off right by thanking Lynn and Richard Pascalano for underwriting this series called Journey Through Jazz. We're going to get a little deeper under the hood of the music as we play it. I want to thank them for their belief in the power of the arts, not just in New York City, but their power to continually remind us of who we are as a people. So let's please give them a rousing thank you. You know, there's meaning in the mechanics and practices of music. What we play and what you hear utilizes and conveys underlying objectives. When identified, these basics make performing and listening a much more enjoyable experience, and it can also provide a deeper understanding of who we are at our best. The fundamentals of jazz represent basic democratic rights and responsibilities. Understanding the intention and the integrity required to play quality jazz has the potential to help us overcome the stagnation and the just downright lack of friendliness in our contemporary national dialogue. Now, we all know and accept that democracy is rooted in a personal freedom that empowers us to express our truest opinion under the pressure of equally heartfelt opposition. Well, jazz features improvisation. We're free to make up our own music under the pressure of time and form. Furthermore, we strive to improvise with imagination, originality, and a personal charisma that is sometimes known as soul. Now, there's no perfect sound, no perfect jazz sound. I once asked my father, man, you think my sound is too not a jazz sound? He said, man, what is a jazz sound? A jazz sound is your sound. There is only your personal sound. Let's hear two improvising soloists play on the harmonies of one of my compositions entitled Mendizarat's Swing. Chris Crenshaw and Elliot Mason are both trombonists. I want you to notice that they strive to improvise in their own way and that they also happily utilize very different approaches. Okay. Not only do Elliot and Chris employ different perspectives and styles, the rhythm section, piano, bass, and drums, has a very different perspective from each of them. Well, the soloists are leading, which requires a sort of selfishness, and the rhythm section is accompanying, which requires a type of selflessness. These differences between rhythm section and soloists create a purposeful friction that affords us the opportunity to negotiate in search of that ever elusive balance. The search is the power. The integrity of this search is what makes for a successful performance. Now let's look a little deeper and observe other differences upon this bandstand, obvious things. First, we're seated in sections of similar instruments. You can just look up here, you see the saxes are in the front where the trumpets should be. The trombones are behind them, and then the noble trumpets lead from behind, and the rhythm section. Sometimes the trombones and the trumpets are grouped together as brass, and in that position, we can really overpower the saxes. Each of us is like a tribe with its own history, traditions, functions, and points of view. We joke around about, like I'm doing right now, which section is the best, which is the laziest, which one likes their lead the most. We go on and on. And you know, with all of this freedom and separation, we could easily resolve the tension between us by dissolving into anarchic chaos. Boy, that ensuing free fall, it would perhaps be a lot of fun for us, at least in the short run. But over time, it would run you right out of this room. In jazz, we respond to the tension of differences by playing and listening with equal intensity. We dedicate a significant portion of our freedom to the responsibility of finding one another and nurturing a common space known as the music. Improvising is freedom, but playing together in tune, in time, and with the deep mutual feeling that is known as swinging is a responsibility. Our national motto, E pluribus unum, means out of many, one. Through intense and incessant dialogue, we pursue swinging to become one, negotiating in jazz the same way we converse in language. Well, there's a lot of call and response. Let's hear some of it. Sometimes the brass are answered by the saxes. Sometimes the saxes are answered by the brass. You see how that brass gets the response. Sometimes one section calls and the other section responds. And sometimes all of us, we're in absolute agreement among all parties, or it could be amongst. Sorry, Chris. And sometimes we have one opinion that just rides above or in between or beneath the fray. Our music gives us choices. What we decide to do with them is the art of jazz. And every performance is unique. It's like a good group discussion. We will never say the same words again in the same order or in the same way. And we will never again play the same notes, ever. In music, you hear musicians developing the relationship between individuals and the larger group, and we have conversations. As we play this complete performance of Bent Dizzaraza Swing, I want y'all to notice how closely we listen to each other, how dedicated the soloists are to personal expression, how we negotiate through call and response, And now the rhythm section accompanies and punctuates conversations while keeping us all together. And now we're trying to handle that time. We hope you enjoy this performance of Mendizaratza Swing.
Adam Birnbaum at the piano. Vincent Gardner on the trombone. Nicole Glover on the tenor saxophone. Winter Marcellus on the trumpet. Thank you very much. Now, our country is governed according to the Constitution, a blueprint of rules and tactics that is supposed to tell us how to seek balance among contradictory issues and how to govern. In jazz, each song has its own constitution. We call it the form. It is a set of guidelines. When we follow the form of the song, it allows many to come together as one. Jazz musicians are all custodians of this basic form. Just as we as citizens should all be custodians of our Constitution. That's a grand hope. Maybe it'll come true. In jazz, the seat of government elected to maintain the integrity of the form is the rhythm section. The form is a set of chords or chord changes that is iterative. It is like the numbers on a clock that allow us to tell the time. When we perform a song, we can play together or solo. We desire to know the form, so we follow its constitution. Let's hear a couple of choruses of blues performed by Paul Netzella on baritone saxophone in the rhythm section. We're going to count it out. I'm going to count it out for you. If you want to join in, please do. And like the clock, after 12, we start at 1 again on the second chorus. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Paul Netzella. We all experience time in different ways. Like right now, it's 7:25. For you, it is a time to be entertained. For us, it is a time to entertain you. It is the same time, but from different perspectives. Musicians and listeners experience different things at any given point in the form. For a musician, depending on your knowledge of harmony, you may be comfortable at one point and your colleague may be seriously in trouble. Or as a listener, you may be absolutely lost in the form and wondering, what am I doing here? Why am I here? While someone else is singing along, and that's okay. Your ability to hear a form or not does not change the form. It is still the Constitution that governs the music. The form of this next selection, which is a piece of mine entitled Mississippi Mud Shuffle, is an essential form to jazz. It is a blues. Now, there are many types of blues, but this is the most fundamental and common blues, a 12-bar blues. I know you all have heard many, many blues in your time, but we're going to do this one more time where you get to count along with us, and the rhythm section is going to play a couple of choruses of blues for us. Now, we're going to count the measures collectively, hopefully. You know, this is a collaborative effort that we have going on here. So we're going to count from 1 to 12, like on the clock. And then when we get to the end of that cycle, we're going to start again at 1. Let's give it a shot. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. All right, the rhythm section. Now, this piece we're going to play for you, Mississippi Mud Shuffle, is slow and hopefully easier to count. Like Mendes Zarat's Swing, We converse and negotiate on cycles of this form. You heard Witten speak about improvised solos and call and response. Here are two additional devices we use to negotiate our way through the music. The first is a riff. A riff is a repeated area, a repeated sentence or phrase that goes over and over like, turn off your cell phone, turn off your cell phone, turn off your cell phone. Timing is everything. This is an example of a riff. And the second device is a shout chorus. When you hear the shout chorus, usually we're saying we're about to end. It is usually the loudest section with all the instruments of the band shouting and negotiating their perspectives collectively. This is the shout chorus. All right, now we're going to play the entire piece for you. Listen for the iterative harmonic progression or form that takes place in this song. Watch the different cues we give each other to negotiate the particulars of this arrangement. Check out how our custodians, the rhythm section, maintain the integrity of the form. I hope you will hear the democratic imperatives in this music, the combination of freedom and responsibility. This is Mississippi Mud Shuffle.
Thank you very much. Victor Goins, composition, tenor saxophone. That's Kenny Bampton on the trumpet. We'll taste of Adam Birnbaum on the piano. Thank you so much. Music is the art of sound. Playing and enjoying music obviously involves hearing, but more importantly, it requires listening. Now, listening and hearing are completely different things. Hearing is something you can't really help, it just happens. Listening requires involvement, intent, and purpose. Quality listening allows us to learn, discover, and grow. Music is a microcosm of life. It creates an opportunity for us to express ourselves, and also by listening to learn about each other. When musicians listen intently with sensitivity and empathy, which are two basic objectives of all human communication, we have meaningful musical conversations. On this bandstand, we are listening very closely and in many different ways. We play written ensemble parts, and we improvise new material. Both require different types of listening. Written parts are finite and have clear instructions indicating volume, different types of expression, and how the different instruments should relate to each other. Improvisation is indicated in written music by slashes, along with symbols, indicates the harmonies. It tells us it's time for us to make up our own melodies. This improvisation is a vital characteristic of jazz. Those slashes mean that we need to listen even more closely because we have to collectively organize every passing moment of completely new music. So with both written and improvised music, we must understand and respect the context. What is the form? What is the feeling? What are the objectives of the composer? Now, this is a piece that I wrote based on the iconic painting by Salvador Dali, Persistence of Memory. You all know this one? With the melting clocks? All right, so this context is created by the rhythm section establishing a time signature of 13/8, a very surreal time signature. 1, 2, 3, 4. And although it's a bit camouflaged, this tune employs the same type of 12-bar blues form that Victor was talking about earlier. So let's do one chorus of this and let's count, like we did, the measures as we listen to this form. 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, the rhythm section. Now, a very unusual improvised section features Marcus Printup and me. We are improvising the same melodies with one closely echoing the other. Superior listening, sensitive reflexes, and trust are required to make this work. So Marcus and I, we have very different styles of playing, so we have to trust each other's choices and want to play together. It is in this place of wanting to be together that meaningful moments are created. So could we alternate who is leading and who is following? Sometimes I lead the improvisation, and he follows me like a shadow. And sometimes I follow him. So we have to anticipate and accept the direction of whoever leads and respond quickly. And of course, let's not forget the overall context and the imagery of the melting clocks. So everything about this piece influences how we approach the jointly improvised solo. Right, here's an example of a chorus of that. 2, 3, 4. Thank you. Marcus put up his perfect pitch, by the way. Just want to point that out. Now, the energy, the time, and the excitement of the music is most often dictated by our drummer, Obed Calvert. His decisions direct how we play. We must listen to and feel what Mr. Calvert is giving us to help shape the overall experience. Check out this example where Obed, with the short solo, is supposed to set up the band on this entrance. Now, did you notice that Obed didn't really give us any clear direction or inspiration to come in on this ensemble passage? The result is that we played in a very lackluster way. This indicates that we need higher quality leadership to achieve our objectives. Now, see how Obed, by building an exciting build-up, the band can play this entrance strong and with a lot of feeling of expression. That's a two-way street. So we need to respond, but we also need something to respond to. 1, 2, 3, 4. You did? As in life, it is this willingness to listen and to care that makes for a good community. This ability to interchange leading and following and to respond dynamically is a hallmark of our way of life. Jazz shows us how it can be successfully done. Okay, now we're going to play Dali, and I want you to listen for everything that we've talked about, the 12-bar blues form, the way Marcus and I listen to each other when we improvise, and how Obed directs much of the intensity in how he sets up the band before that big ensemble passage. This is Dali. Thank you very much.
Ted Nash. Ted Nash. Alto saxophone and composition. Marcus Sprinter, trumpet. And on drums, Obed Calvert. Salvador Dali. As we have heard, there are endless ways to express ourselves. The way we express ourselves, however, is learned. Now, how many times as a child have we blurted something out only to be told to settle down, or speak softer, or any other admonition that attempts to set the boundaries that define freedom? As we grow older And with many repetitions, we learn, as Mr. Nash said, that context matters. The ability to place ourselves in a larger context is a sign of maturity. Whether soloing or playing ensemble parts, we have to share our freedom inside the time of the rhythm section. It's easy to take the rhythm section for granted because the horns are out front. But the best horn soloists keep them engaged by being responsible and accountable to the rhythm section's sense of time and form. Who is responsible for the time? Who is responsible for the swing? Is it the rhythm section? Is it the horn or the horn section? Is it the vocalist if we had one? Yes, yes, and yes. Time is flexible and metronomic. Talk about a way to make your brain explode. In my composition, Conglomerate, which is an AABA song form like I Got Rhythm, the rhythm section maintains a medium 4/4 swing while four of us play the three different melodies at the same time. The sounding of two or more simultaneous melodies is called counterpoint. Although J.S. Bach is still the undisputed genius of counterpoint, early New Orleans jazz musicians invented their own counterpoint using collective improvisation. This way of playing was continued in a modern style by musicians of the cool school, like Jerry Mulligan, Chet Baker, Jimmy Jufrey, and many others. How does the music make us responsible for the time? And how does a written part hold us accountable? Let's listen to each individual melody, starting with Paul Netzella and Adam Birnbaum. Yeah. Now let's hear the second melody played by Nicole Glover. Now here's the third melody. Now, normally, the piano plays chords that articulate the form, but here the piano is used as a strictly melodic instrument playing single lines. This leaves space that is filled by the harmonies of multiple horn melodies. Playing in the same time as the drum and bass is one thing. Playing in the same time as the drums, the bass, and three other people add even more responsibility to the mix. Playing in the same time as the drums, the bass, three other people, while your teachers are standing there looking at you, is enough to make you want to get up off the bandstand and hide somewhere. And for this to sound good, all of these parts must be played with absolute melodic and dynamic synchronicity. We're accountable to each other. Context is as important as accountability and responsibility here, especially when we improvise. Improvisers are accountable for the form, the time feel, and for each other's melodic spacing and development as they play. Now on Dali, we heard Ted and Marcus improvise and imitate each other on the same melody. Now let's hear Ryan Kaiser and Paul Netzella improvise their own counterpoint with a rhythm section. Now, by listening to the different groups play different melodies, you'll realize what it takes to make a written part sound like it's improvised. Clarinetist Jimmy Hamilton from the Duke Ellington Orchestra and a member of our first JLCO always insisted on personalizing your part. Everyone has a chance to personalize as long as they hold themselves accountable and play their part responsibly. There is freedom of choice, but there is no such thing as freedom of consequences. Here's my original composition, Conglomerate or Conglomerate.
Chris Crenshaw. Chris Crenshaw. Composition, trombone. Ryan Kaiser, lead trumpet and cornet. Paul Metzel on the baritone saxophone. Lucas Curtis on the bass. Thank you so much. Now let's review a few of the little things that we went over before we played the final composition. This music has a meaning, and that meaning is related to our way of life. Improvisation is freedom, and we have also the responsibility of seeking a balance for our differences and being nice to our neighbor. Come on. Let me get an amen. Somebody. Our goal as an ensemble is e pluribus unum, through many one. We achieve it by using devices of communication like call and response, riffs, and all these different things to negotiate. Victor talked to us about the blues, and he likened it to our Constitution and to a clock. It gives us a reliable frame of reference. He talked about riffs and reinforcing musical ideas and said, remember to keep your cell phone off when you come into concerts. Ted talked about the difference between hearing and listening. He stressed the need to listen closely to one another and observed that listening leads to growth. Showed us the value of taking pride in leading and in following. Chris just finished talking to us, and he told us all of his observations about being accountable and responsible for written parts because the music is laid out in time. He talked about being generous to the rhythm section, and he explained counterpoint and collective improvisation. Finally, he pointed out that we need to make our parts personal. And that means you invest yourself in responsibilities with the same gusto that you embrace freedoms. Before we conclude, I'd like to recognize our educators and writers. They all have taught so many classes, and it's been such an honor and pleasure for me to work with them. And I think they did a fantastic job on their writing. And also the speaking is actually harder than the writing. So Victor Goins, Ted Nash, Chris Crenshaw. We're going to conclude with a piece that comes from probably the world's greatest communal musical organization, the Count Basie Old Testament Orchestra. They came stomping up out of Kansas City during the Depression, swinging like crazy. And you may think that was a long time ago, but one of their great trumpeters, Sweets Edison, was an unbelievable mentor of mine when I was in high school and even later. And a lot of gigs right here at Jazz at Lincoln Center. This piece is entitled Jumping at the Woodside. Hope you enjoy it.
Sherman Irby, Marcus Printup,
Elliot Mason, Adam Birnbaum, Victor Goins, and the rest of us. Thank you so much. We are the Jazz at Lincoln Center Orchestra.